Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I get to talk about the rest of the year. That's right, we're going to be looking at my list of the top 30 most anticipated. I can't wait for, you all know what anticipated means, you read, of course you do. Can't wait for these graphic novels, collected editions, coming out the rest of 2024. Meaning I've already done a list like this at the beginning of the year, but now we have the full catalog. So let's go ahead and take a look at my list together. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to our patrons for making videos like this possible. Could not be doing this without you all. And also a reminder that we have a spread shop where you can get stickers and our logo on t-shirts and different designs on t-shirts. If you're going to different conventions this year, now's the chance to get them. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted to say. But before I go any further, I always like to remind people that dates are subject to change. Whenever I make this list, I'm looking at the most current date, but as you all know, every week dates are changing. Some of these could be delayed. As a matter of fact, one of the books that I was really excited for was supposed to come out last year, and that was Trigun Deluxe Edition. Then it got delayed until this year, and now it got delayed until later this year, towards the end of the year. I think now it's September. So that list still counts. So I have done a list like this at the beginning of the year. Every year I do one at the beginning of the year, the top 30 most anticipated books of 2024. And now it's the top 30 most anticipated books for the rest of 2024. Not a countdown. I am going to be breaking these up by the dates they are coming out as of today. And of course, a kindly reminder to smash that like button, please. That goes a long way for us here on the channel. Very small thing you can do, but it means the world to us, especially with the way that algorithms work these days. All right, 30 books to talk about. I would love to know what your list is, so leave them down below, whatever you're most excited for. What book you didn't even know from this list that I'm talking about that was coming out. One more thing, sorry. I'm long-winded, you all know that. I'm trying not to put so many books from August, because I do these every month, top 10, top 13 coming out the month of August, and September, October, November, but I was like, oh, I can't help it, I'm just super excited for these books. Okay, now we can start with The Flash by William Messner Loebs and Greg LaRocque, Omnibus Volume 1. I am absolutely excited for this. It is right around the corner. And, oh my gosh, it's one of my most anticipated, collecting the first, couple of, 3 years, actually, of The Flash, just about. And this is the post-crisis Flash. This is the stuff that leads into the Waid run eventually, but this is the very, very beginning. We still got a little bit to go. But you have artwork in here from Greg LaRocque, and of course, written by Mike Baron and William Messner Loebs. So I'm really happy that they are collecting those first 28 issues and not breaking it apart, because it is called the William Messner Loebs Flash Omnibus. I would love to see a William Messner Loebs Wonder Woman Omnibus too, but one step at a time. That one comes out in August, as well as Spider-Man Brand New Day Omnibus Volume 1. This is one that has been delayed quite a number of months, but it is finally coming out. As a matter of fact, I have my review copy that should be coming out after this video. And this one's coming out as of this date on August 13th, collecting the beginning of Brand New Day. Is it the best Spider-Man stories? No. But it is a great jumping on point for new readers. It is the post One More Day stories of Spider-Man where he has a new status quo and he gets a new supporting cast. And, you know, I realize how people feel about One More Day. It is very divisive. Some people don't like it. Others were okay with it. And then others were ready for a change. But this is when Marvel decided to give a couple of, I think it was like 4 or 5 different writers, the brain trust and making them the brain trust of Spider-Man. So you had Bob Gell, Mark Guggenheim, Dan Slott, and Zeb Wells writing the stories in here in a weekly manner with like Chris Bachalo on artwork, Humberto Ramos on artwork, Phil Jimenez, and John Romita Jr., just to name a few of the artists. So very excited for that book. 20 years. Has it been 20 years since this has been out? The Scott Pilgrim 20th Anniversary hardcover box set. This is being published by Omnibus, and the very cool thing about this is that it collects all 6 volumes in 2 different formats. So you have 2 different box sets. You have 2 different ways of getting it. The black and white format, which a lot of people were introduced to the stories in this format. And then, of course, the colored format, which they later recolored a lot of these black and white stories. All of it together in one big box set. Hopefully, I'll be doing an advanced overview of this. This one is due out towards the end of August, but both the color hardcover box set and the black and white hardcover box set are going to be available on the same day. And I know a lot of my viewers are excited about that. Whether you're a fan, Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty one day, a fan of the movie or the recent TV show on Netflix, or you've just been a fan of Brian Lee O'Malley's Scott Pilgrim. It's been 20 years. How in the world does time just go that fast? Another box set, but this time around a manga, is Fire Force Manga Box Set 1. I know it's not a big box set. It seems like publishers are sticking to smaller and smaller box sets, which kind of breaks my heart because I love the big box sets. I did a top 10 manga box set. But this one collects the first 6 volumes. This one is being published by Kodansha Comics, and I have been getting the Omnibus editions, which is like the 3-in-1 editions, but I'm not the biggest fan of the paper stock on those. It's a little bit thinner, and the paper stock in the original volumes, because I have a couple of them, does have a thicker paper stock. As far as what this includes, it could be a mini poster, it could be a sticker. They do throw in some kind of extra in there, and this one has a retail price of $65.94 for 6 volumes, so sure. This is by Atsushi Okubo, by the way, the same gentleman that gave us Soul Eater. And not done with box sets, but Batman Family Volume 1, or Batman Family Box Set 1. So this includes Batgirl Year 1, Robin Year 1, and of course Nightwing Year 1. All of it in one box set in case you missed out on it. I will say, though, this is a trade paperback. But this is the home of collected editions, and I have a lot of viewers that just love reading stories in collected editions. And I don't want anybody to miss out on these phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal stories by Chuck Dixon, by Scott Beatty, Marcos Martin, and Javier Pulido. Just some great stories. Yes, they're retcons, but they're throwbacks, like, to this classic era when Barbara Gordon was Batgirl. Keep in mind, this is the stuff before Flashpoint, so it's before New 52, so that it's a little bit confusing, but it's the classic throwback retcon stories of the first year of Dick Grayson as Robin, the first year of Dick Grayson as Nightwing, and the first year of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. There is a Batman and Robin Year 1 coming out from Mark Waid, and I think it's Chris Samney. That could be added to an omnibus one day. They can make it a Bat Family Year 1. I would be all... Oh! A Batman Year 1, you can even throw that in there. Alright. Let's keep going with Superman the Triangle Era Omnibus Volume 1. I love that they're doing this. I love that it's an Omnibus Volume 1. I think most people watching my channel probably know that my most wanted DC Omnis. By the way, the most wanted top 10 Marvel Omnis, the most wanted top 10 DC Omnis, that will be back sometime next month. I have to wait to announce the rest of the Marvel Omnis because I don't want to cheat and be like, oh, what a coincidence. My number 2 most wanted is also on Marvel's list. But I want to make sure that those announcements go out before I put my list out there. So this is the era that takes place after Superman Exile Omnibus, which is also coming back to print later on at the end of the year. Now, Superman Exile Omnibus takes place after Man of Steel by John Byrne. Those 4 hardcovers, even though it's missing like the world of Krypton, the world of Smallville, and the world of Metropolis, but it leads directly into Superman Exiles and Other Stories Omnibus. Now, there is enough material for another omnibus in between Exile and Triangle era. But this is the beginning of the Roger Stern, Louise Simonson, and Jerry Ordway, and then eventually Dan Jurgens, just running all 4 of these books in a weekly manner. And each of them kind of connecting because of those little triangle the little triangle numbers on each cover. I am super excited about this book, and I cannot wait to do an overview on it and talk about the stories found in here. Next up is Mirka Andolfo's Hot Paprika Omnibus. I love Mirka Andolfo's artwork. I realize it is mature, so yes, there's a lot of sexual content in here. This is absolutely mature content. But they did a Unnatural Omnibus, and my wife and I actually reviewed the first issue of Mirka Andolfo's Sweet Paprika. And now this will contain all 12 issues of Sweet Paprika, and I'm super excited for it. They make beautiful box or omnibus editions. So this one will collect all 12 issues and has a price of $59.99. Spider-Man, the Complete Black Costume Saga Omnibus. Of course I'm excited about this era. We finally have one of these gap filler eras. This is after the Roger Stern Omnibus. And it doesn't take us directly into the Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane Omnibus, but it does fill in that gap of those issues of Spider-Man when he was wearing that black costume, the Alien. As a matter of fact, when I was about to announce it, this was supposed to be the Complete Alien Costume Saga Omnibus, but right before I recorded my video, I got an email from David asking me to change the name of the book to the Black Costume Saga. So regardless, it is that era when the alien costume was pretty much becoming one with Peter Parker, and then what he decides to do with it. Hopefully we'll get another one of these Saga books to fill in that missing gap between this and, of course, the Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane. BRZRKR Deluxe Edition is coming out in 2 different formats. Well, 3 if you include the Boom exclusive hardcover. But there is the Slipcase Edition, which is the way I'm going to pick this up. This collects all 12 issues. This is one of their biggest selling books, of course, Keanu Reeves, Matt Kent, and Ron Garney. There's also a deluxe hardcover edition. The Slipcase Edition is $69.99, and the hardcover will be $49.99. They'll contain the exact same thing, but much like all the other Boom Studio slipcase editions, that's about the only difference. They'll just have the slipcase. Godzilla, the original Marvel years. Doug Moench, Herb Trimpe, and Tom Sutton. I had the chance of reading the first issue. I used to have the essential of this. This was a lot of fun to me. This collects all 24 issues, and it's definitely one of those that there is no way we're ever going to get this. And here we are, right around the corner in October. We're going to get all 24 issues collected in one omnibus format of these classic Godzilla King of the Monsters by Marvel Comics. Also introducing us to Red Ronin, and also has like characters from S.H.I.E.L.D. like Dum Dum Dugan. Actually, my wife did a overview. She had never read any of it, and she did an awesome job with her review of the Godzilla issue number 1 facsimile edition. The Lonesome Hunters Library Edition hardcover from Dark Horse Comics. Absolutely excited for this. Right in October too, so it has that little bit of a horror and eerie feel to it. This is Tyler Crook writing and drawing this. The trade paperback actually made it in my hidden gems right before I found out that this was coming out. So it makes me happy that I was already putting some spotlight on it, but now people will know exactly what this is. This is an old, retired demon hunter who is approached by a young girl to take his giant demon hunting sword out again and go after some demons. This is drawn and written by the phenomenal artist on Harrow County. So if you're a fan of that art, definitely check this out. Birthright Deluxe Edition hardcover book 1. I've told this story on my live streams many times, but just in case you missed it, why am I so excited for this? 10 years ago, I got to read the trade paperback of Birthright Volume 1, and I decided 10 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to wait on the hardcover, because I know this is too good of a story. I'm just going to wait on the hardcover. And it's one of those things that you forget, and people ask you, Omar, have you read Birthright? And I was going like, oh, I guess I need to pick up the trade paperbacks because I like the story. And we never got a hardcover until now, 10 years later. Coming in October, collecting the first 25 issues of Birthright by Joshua Williamson, Andre Brezin, and Andrino Lucas. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for this book. Love that cover too. Cannot wait for this. And the Deluxe hardcover? Hells yes. Hells yes. Of course, come on. I think this is on everybody's list, right? Even people that don't even collect Omnis. DC versus Marvel Omnibus. Now, if I had to choose one, people have been asking me, which one would I choose? Absolutely the classic. The classic one. I love what Amalgam was. That was my age in high school when I was voting for characters to win. And in that miniseries, but the classics is what I remember the most. The ones from like 1976's The Amazing Spider-Man versus Superman. But I mean, this has like even the modern classic stuff with Daredevil and Batman, and oh man, you've got artwork in, and that's gonna be the hardest part, is choosing which cover, because whenever you have a Jim Lee cover drawing classic Marvel characters, of course you want to go that route. But you've got George Perez, too, doing the standard edition cover. It's going to be tough. But, I mean, it's not just them. You've got writings in here of Chris Claremont, Walter Simonson doing that Teen Titans book with the X-Men. Oh, my gosh. Dan Jurgens. I mentioned George Perez. Dennis O'Neil, Jan DeMatteis, Mark Bagley, John Romita Jr., and Jerry Conway, just to name a few. But, yeah, all these classic one-shots are in here, like Darkseid versus Galactus, The Hunger, Spider-Man, and Batman. There was a Captain America Batman one, or was it the Superman one that was done by John Byrne, that kind of ties into that Batman Superman omnibus that John Byrne did. But yes, of course, just like everybody else, super excited for that. It has been delayed a little bit. It is now in October, but it is still coming out. Hopefully no more delays. The Complete Harrow County. Yes! People have been asking me, when is Dark Horse going to reprint those library editions? And I did reach out to Dark Horse, and they told me right now we're focusing on the Omnibus, which their Omnibus are the trade paperback softcover versions of those library editions. And now they're doing a Complete Harrow County hardcover. I believe the dimensions of this are the same as that of the monster-sized Hellboy. All 32 issues. Now, this doesn't include the Tales of Harrow County that were done by a bunch of guest writers and guest artists. But this does collect all the Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook main series. So excited for it. And also coming out in October, which is the perfect time to come out for a book like that. And next up is the Blue Lock Season 1, Part 1 manga box set. I was in Japan recently, and whenever we would go to manga shops, they had Blue Lock, and I kept flipping through it, and I love the artwork. I'm not sure what it was that captivated me, but it's also a football manga. So the only thing I've ever really read with soccer as far as manga was some issues of Captain Tsubasa. Some tankobons of Captain Tsubasa, a friend of mine let me borrow years ago that had been like fan translated. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. This one here collects the first 6 issues, or first 6 volumes, and it also collects a double-sided poster. This is published by Kodansha. This one has a retail price of $77.94. But I mean, that art alone, I was hooked. I am excited for this one, and I'll be picking it up. Now, if you're interested in purchasing some of these books, we're halfway done through the list. Check out our first sponsor.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
X-Men Extinction Agenda Omnibus. This one is one that you all voted for the last couple of years, where every year I put an extra X-Men oversized hardcover into our voting polls that come out around February where people vote to come back as an omnibus. But with this one, it got a little tricky because Extinction Agenda oversized hardcover had been out of print for so long, but it wasn't big enough. So I thought, wait, why don't we put Extinction Agenda and Days of Future Present together and make it into an omnibus? But they did even one better by giving us Extinction Agenda, Days of Future Present, and so much more, like all the Marvel Comics Presents issues that are missing. Oh my gosh, they actually have the Starjammers miniseries in here by Dave Cockrum. It's just an amazing collection. In case you didn't have those oversized hardcovers, this is the perfect gap filler. This goes in between X-Men by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee Volume 1 and X-Men by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee Volume 2. So this fits perfectly in between both of those. So I cannot wait for that. The Drifters Omnibus. This is by Kota Hirano, and this collects the first 3 volumes, so it'll be a big tankobon. And I know that, you know, their omnibus editions are a little bit taller than their tankobons, so I am looking forward to that. This one has 672 pages, and of course published by Dark Horse Comics. It's Kota Hirano, the creator of Hellsing. So it's one that I actually missed out on reading, so I will be reading it for the first time. Now in the month of November, we are kicking it off with Batman Year 1 and Year 2. This is the new DC's Finest line. So it's kind of like DC's answer to the Epic Collection, and they are separating them by years. They're not starting at the very beginning with the Golden Age, nor the Silver Age. This is starting literally at the beginning of the post-crisis era. So it will have, for the first time, both Batman Year 1 and Year 2 collected together, but also Annual 11 and then Detective Comics, all the way to 581. So this is a really cool collection, $39.99. It's 592 pages. It's an amazing collection of just great stories, not only by Frank Miller, but by Mike W. Barr, of course. Artwork by Todd McFarlane, David Mazzucchelli, and Alan Davis, just to name a few of the wonderful creators on this. But it's just crazy that for the first time ever, we have Batman Year 1 and Year 2 in one collection. So, yeah, and I hope to keep pumping these out, and I hope that we get more and more, not just one Batman book a year, one Superman book a year, but like 2 or 3 a year. Kind of like the release of the Epic Collections. Next up is Junkyard Joe Deluxe Edition hardcover. I was blown away by the format that the Geiger Deluxe Edition hardcover came in from Image Comics. And of course, this is Jeff Johns' own group of people doing this, and that is Ghost Machine. But this is the Jeff Johns and Gary Frank book, collecting all 6 issues of this. This is 208 pages, $34.99. And if you've seen my overview of these books, they are tall. They're like the size of an Absolute edition. This is the comic within the comic. So Junkyard Joe is the character that is in the Geiger comic. Like the character is reading in Geiger comic about this character known as Junkyard Joe. So it's like a military robot that was a veteran from the Vietnam War. Regardless, I have not read a single issue of this, but people have asked me if I have, and the people that like Geiger, they're like, oh, you got to check out Jeff Johns' Junkyard Joe. So I am all in for that. Blacksad, They All Fall Down Part 2. This is the hardcover format. I have been waiting for this book for a couple of years now. Are you kidding? Juan Diaz Canales and Juanjo Guarnido. Oh, those guys kill it. Oh, it's so good. Probably one of the best, if not the best, noir detective stories out there. Just happens to be anthropomorphic animals. But don't miss out on it because they're anthropomorphic animals. Oh my gosh. Just like I tell people, don't miss out on Uncle Scrooge by Carl Barks and Don Rosa. They are phenomenal stories out there just because it happens to have some animals. The Woods Deluxe Edition hardcover. There's another one from Boom Studios that will be a deluxe hardcover, and there will be a slipcase edition. This is by James Tynion and Michael Dialanas, and this collects all 36 issues. This is going to be a big book. The retail price of this one's $115. But I read the first volume, and I fell in love with the trade paperback. when did I read? That was a suggestion by Wonder Maddie. So now I get to read the rest of the series because I was waiting for hardcovers of it. So now they're coming out with one big edition. Absolute Mr. Miracle. This collects all 12 issues of Mr. Miracle by Tom King, by Mitch Gerads, and I know that Tom King is one of these writers that people are divided on. Some people love his stuff, some people don't care for it. For me, it's always case by case. I love this story. Absolutely, it is freaking wrecking, and I think most copies do come with a warning about suicide in there because it does have a lot of those elements in there. But it also is a story about hope. And if you've never read it and you're just a big fan of Absolute Editions, then yeah, it's one of my most wanted Absolute Editions and finally coming out this year. The Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 5. And this one is due out in November. Long time coming. As a matter of fact, David Gabriel's favorite Marvel comic is Fantastic Four, so people were shocked that we didn't have more Omnis. But here it is. Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 5. This now takes us all the way to issue 163. So it is the works of Roy Thomas, Jerry Conway, Big John Buscema, and Rich Buckler. Just to name a few of the creators that work on this particular book. And it has the crossover with the Avengers there too. The best of DC War artist. I found this a couple months ago just through the catalog. And that cover, oh my gosh. So War Comics is something for me that I would just read from time to time. It wasn't something I sought after. It wasn't like I read I would find issues of the Haunted Tank at a yard sale, or actually at Dr. Comics, the flea market shop I used to go to when I was a kid. He had them for like 10 cents. Sometimes he'd give me a deal, like make them 5 cents. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, I gotta go and read more. But the art always stuck with me, and it makes sense now. Like when you look at some of these legends, like Russ Heath, Jack Kirby, Joe Kubert, Mary Severin, and Alex Toth. So this is the artist edition that IDW is putting together. Now these artist editions are pretty pricey. It's $150 for 180 pages, but the pages are pretty much what the artist drew on, the size of what the artist drew on. So very excited for that one. Death of Wolverine Omnibus. How could I be excited about my favorite character's death? Well, that's easy, because this is such a huge gap filler that gives us not just one, but 2 different Wolverine series that were going on at that time by Paul Cornell, and then actually gives us the whole Death of Wolverine event, the whole thing that was written by Charles Soule. So I'm very excited for this. I love when Marvel plans things like this. This is a big book too. This has 1,232 pages. This one's $125. Because it means that they're thinking ahead. Okay, if we're going to map all of Death of Wolverine together, should we have the Wolverines be a different series? And it just makes me think that this era will be well collected once it's all said and done. And I mean, we've had 5 of the Wolverine Omnis. We still need more. And now we have another one that takes place years later. Paul Smith's Uncanny X-Men Artist Edition. Paul Smith, it's interesting. Paul Smith is regarded as one of the best X-Men artists. But if you think back, he only drew like 10 issues of X-Men in between issues 165 and 175. And actually, he had a couple fill-in issues there, but he did do Alpha Flight and X-Men, and he did come back from time to time, like do an annual or some couple chapters in books. But it's just so amazing that he is still stuck in some people's mind as one of the greatest X-Men artists. And for me, he is. I love his art. It's my favorite thing about this collection is that it will include my very first comic, and that is Uncanny X-Men 168. This one has 204 pages, and you know the art's going to vary from all kinds of issues between 165 to 175 that he worked on, but also Marvel Fanfare number 4. And again, it's going to be an oversized format because it is the size of art pages that artists use. So I love that they recreate it like that. Next up is Delicious in Dungeon, the complete box set. Sneaking right in there into December. Hopefully there's no delays. I say that, but who knows, you know. Any of these could be delayed. But, oh man, so excited for this one. Because my friend TikTok Tina has been telling me that, hey, you need to get this, Omar. It's an amazing manga. And I'm like, you know, it looks kind of silly. And then I watched one episode. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. I kind of dig it. When we were in Japan, she bought a bunch of figures from this particular series. I hadn't read it yet. I'm sure I'll regret it. I wish I could go back and get some figures. This box set will contain all 15 volumes. I love the design. I love that it opens up from the front. And this one's $225, but again, containing 15 volumes. I was just talking about how manga companies really aren't giving us these big box sets like we used to get. This one's published by Yen Press and will be coming out in December. Super excited for it. And all because of my buddy TikTok Tina. But then again, I mean, that's how you hear about some of your favorite stories. Word of mouth. Not just YouTube channels telling you to go and get something. But your friends. Look to your friends. Unless your friends don't read, then don't look to them. Next up is The Flash by Mark Waid. Omnibus Volume 2. Finally, I remember how happy we all got when it was in the catalog. And then I was like, okay, great. We still need to get it in the solicitations. And then it was final. No, hasn't been solicited yet, knock on wood. But we still have a date of December. So it should be in the next solicitation. And I cannot wait for this book to come out. By now, we do have the works in here of Mike Wieringo as the main artist on the book. And it's just, oh man, some of the best Flash stories. People always ask me, what's better, you know, the Mark Waid or the run by Jeff Johns on The Flash? And I always choose Jeff Johns. And here I am praising the work of Mark Waid. But without Mark Waid's run, there would be no Jeff Johns. Without all the mythos that he put and built on the character, there would be no Jeff Johns Flash. I feel the same way about Don Rosa's Duck Comics and Carl Barks. Without Carl Barks, there is no Don Rosa Duck Comics. But that's just my 2 cents. The Complete Kabuki 30th Anniversary. 30 years. That is crazy. This is the 30th Anniversary Edition. This is another one of those books that, looking at the dimensions, it is the size of one of the monster size buses. Or monster size. I guess that's what we can call it. Monster size bus. Or the Colossal Conan books, if you were lucky enough to get those from Dark Horse. But this will collect all 4 of the library editions. 1,288 pages. This was $149.99. It is going to be a huge book. All of it written and drawn by David Mack. It is trippy as hell, but it's so cool to see the evolution of his art just turn more and more beautiful. And there'll be all kinds of painted pieces of artwork in here, and of course sequential art. One, I'm very looking forward to it. I know I'm not alone. And to wrap up my list is Batman Bruce Wayne Murder Turned Fugitive Omnibus. Oh my gosh, I have been dreaming about a book like this for years. I know that sounds ridiculous, but to have all of the event where Bruce Wayne is at his mansion and there's a dead body and the police come in and they immediately arrest him. His friends, his family, the Bat family, Nightwing, Oracle, Tim Drake, Robin, they don't know whether to trust him or not. So now it's time for him to clear his name. Started with the 10-cent adventure. I was reading this stuff in single issues. Man, such a good story. You have Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka, Kelly Puckett, also Damian Scott, and Scott McDaniels doing some of the artwork in here. So you are in for a treat. This is 1,056 pages. This one's $125. Now, if you live in America and you want some of these books, pre-order them from our sponsor here, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was my list of the top 30 most anticipated, my top 30 most anticipated graphic novels, collected editions coming out the rest of 2024. Like I said, there might be some delays, so keep that in mind as you're watching this. Maybe like even a day later, you're like, what the heck, Omar? This book's already coming out in 2025. Sorry, when I was filming it, it was in 2024. But I would love to know what your list is. Leave the list down below. Let me know what your top 10, your top 1. You're like, man, I can't wait to get this. or if I made you aware of a book that you didn't even know was coming out. Smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.